Hi BookTube! My name is Sarah and welcome to the Bookish Knitter. Today I'm coming to you with my updated 2024 SAS list. So, a couple weeks ago I did my SAS list, which stands for Series About Series, which is something that was created by Elizabeth over at Lizzie Faye Loves Books. I'll leave a link to Elizabeth's channel in the description box below. She created this years ago and it's basically a way to get caught up on series. Much like the original list that I did, this is more of a not caught up on series, but series I'd like to read my way through. And this is all going to be strictly category romance series. So I will explain. But first of all, my original SAS list, I did not get rid of it. It's still on saved on my Google Drive. And if I get the urge this year to read anything other than category romance, I will go to that list first and pick a book to read, essentially. So that is still there. It's not gone. This is almost like a secondary SAS list, if you will. So let me explain for those of you who might be new to category romance or what have you. Let me reach for an example. All right, sorry about that. So examples of what I mean by category romance series, because there's two different ways that you can look at it. Now, it all depends on terminology, right? And how people determine category romance series or imprints or what have you. So I refer to category romance imprints instead. Okay, so I call them imprints. So we're going to kind of get a little lesson here along with talking about my SAS list. So an imprint is the overall branding of that line, of that set of books, if you will. So, for example, we have Temptation. Temptation, this is no longer around, but I just happen to have it on hand. Temptation is an imprint. It's a category romance imprint. Okay? So these are the Temptation books. Then there is also the special edition imprint. Special edition right there. So, you know, these are two separate imprints. Now, when I say I'm reading through category romance series, I do not mean I am reading all 2,816 books in the special edition line starting at book number 1. These are numbered on the side. I have talked about this before. The numbering means not that a whole heck of a lot. It's not going to focus for me. Sorry, guys. The numbering is almost like a comic book, sort of, in a way. I think it's more for collectors to, I have number 2815 and 2817, but I need 2816 for my collection. These are also numbered. All of them are numbered, to be completely honest. This is number 968. Again, it's not going to focus. I don't know why. I'm so sorry, you guys, that I cannot get it to focus. But my camera's giving me fits and starts today. So this is just an example of just two imprints. There are a ton of them. There have been a ton of them. There are still a ton of them. There's 10 currently running. We have, let's see if I can do them all off the top of my head. We have heartwarming, historical, intrigue, medical, romance, presents, romantic suspense, special edition, love-inspired, and love-inspired suspense. So those are the 10 that are currently out. We have some old ones. Like I said, Temptation's an older one. Blaze, American Romance. There's a Gothic line. There was a Regency line. There's all kinds of imprints. So these are imprints. Now, within the imprints, you can have series. And that's what I'm going to be reading for my SAS list. So, for example, this one is a standalone novel. It's not part of a series. It's just a book by Tanya Michaels called Hers for the Weekend. Looks spicy. Looks sassy. I can't wait to read it. But it is not. You can just read this as it is and you're good. There's no series attached to it. This is part of a series. It is part of the Fortunes of Texas series. I think it's the Hotel Fortune miniseries. I'll talk about that series within a series as we go through this video. I hope this video is also going to be a good explanation for some of you in terms of category and how these imprints and series and miniseries and what have you all work. So yeah, so the Fortunes of Texas. So that's what I mean by series. So, okay. So let's go through my SAS list. So same as my original list, I picked 24 different series that I would like to work my way through. Some of them are kind of going to be ongoing. As I finish one, I will jump into the next one and I will explain that as I go through. Other ones, when I'm done that series, I'll just but I'll mention that I don't want to jump ahead, okay? So the first one, these are they're not in any particular order. It just so happens that when I was picking these series, I was going through the different imprints on Harlequin. So some of the imprints you're going to notice are kind of grouped together. There's a couple of Desire together. There's a bunch of Special Edition together. That's not necessarily on purpose. It's just kind of the way it worked out when I was putting the list together. So the first one that we have is the Texas Cattlemen's Club, and this is The Last Bachelor. And this is a series that was written by various authors. There are 5 books in this mini-series, okay? So the Texas Cattlemen's Club is a long-running series from Harlequin. And they've been going on for years through the Desire line. So there are several. So the original Texas Cattlemen's Club, when I looked it up, was it the TC? Yeah, it was the Texas Cattlemen's Club. These were originally published not under the Desire imprint. They were like what's called single title books published by Harlequin. So they weren't branded with a special edition or Desire or whatever the case may be. They were just books you would have seen at your bookstore, and they were the Fortunes of Texas. So was that or the Coltons? No, it was the Coltons that did this. Sorry. So the Fortunes of Texas has always been, disregard that. The Fortunes of Texas have always been part of the Desire line. So there are miniseries. So it's not like the Fortunes of Texas, if you look it up, has like over 100 books. Does not mean you need to read all 100. They're broken up into little mini-series. So you get like groups of 5 or groups of 10 or however many books. I think 12 towards the end, it was like groups of 12. It would run for a whole year or something like that. And they're all a different theme. So this one is called The Last Bachelor. I do not know what the theme is, but sound from Bachelor, I'm thinking maybe some sort of an auction, and all of the books take place in that auction. I don't really know. The first book in the line, or in this miniseries, is called The Millionaire's Pregnant Bride, and it's by Dixie Browning. And this came out, all 5 books were published in 2002. So this series is long gone. This is the first one for Texas Cattlemen's Club. So when I finish these 5 books, no idea when, I'm going to pick these books by a random spin of the wheel. When I'm done these 5 books, I will pick the next one in order for the Texas Cattlemen's Club and work my way through the entire Texas Cattlemen's Club in those small groupings, if that makes any kind of sense. The next one is another Desire series. I've actually read the first 4 books, but it was years ago, so I'm looking forward to revisiting them and finishing off the series. And that is Red Dirt Royalty by Silver James. Like I said, 8 books in this series. This series started in 2015, so she wrote them in 2015, 2016, and 2017, and then came back in 2021 and finished off the series. So the first book is called Cowgirls Don't Cry, and this was really good. I think it's a lot of fun. It's a fun series about a family, like a very well-to-do ranching family. So yeah. The next one is a American Romance series. I love the American Romance line. It is one of my absolute favorites. I'm so sad the line is no longer around. It's another cowboy group of books, and that is Mustang Valley by Cathy McDavid. The first book is called The Last Chance Cowboy, and there are 11 books in this series. The first one came out in 2011, and the final one came out in 2017. So yay on that one. The next one is a heartwarming series, and this is Cowboy. Clearly there's a theme here, guys. Cowboy Academy by Melinda Curtis. The first book is called A Cowboy Worth Waiting For, and there are 6 books slated to be published. So I think the first 4 books or 3 books are already out. 3 books are due to be published this year. So I think the last one's coming out around the holidays. But the first one, did I say it's called A Cowboy Worth Waiting For? And yeah, it came out in 2023. So no idea on some of these current series whether there's going to be more books after like these 6. If there are, then I will just keep reading on. If not, then, you know, I'll consider the series done or caught up or whatever the case may be, which is always great. The next one's only a 2-book series. I wanted to have a nice little short one on here just to kind of like make it easy on me. And this is a historical series, and this is The Brides of the Roaring Twenties by Lauri Robinson, who is a favorite author of mine. The first one is called Baby on His Hollywood Doorstep, and it came out in 2019. Both books were published in 2019, so it's only a duology. Nice and quick and easy. Finish it up and call it a day. I'm looking forward to that one. And if you haven't been able to figure it out, I'm only really mentioning the first book in series for all of these just because it's so much easier. The next one is another historical series, and this is a 4-book series, and this is a little bit spicier than the last one. This is The Society of Wicked Gentlemen by various authors. Now, when I say various authors, this is a collaboration series, so it's not like one author's like, hey, I'd really like to write a series about a group of wicked gentlemen that takes place in the historical times. It's usually, and same with the Texas Cattlemen's Club, same with the Fortunes of Texas, the Montana Mavericks, the Coltons, all these I'm going to talk about as I get to them. Basically, Harlequin, their team, comes up with an idea and says, hey, we want to write a new Texas Cattlemen's Club series. Or in this case, we want to write a series about wicked gentlemen in like a historical series. And they kind of have the idea, and they go to 4 or 5 or 6, however many authors in the series, and they're like, hey, would you be interested in doing this? Now, in some cases, it's like, hey, this is what we want to do. Maybe the authors themselves get together and talk and be like, hey, we can do this, this, and this. Okay, let's do this. But in the cases of the Fortunes of Texas, Montana Mavericks, and the Texas Cattlemen's Club, and I believe the Coltons as well. Now, I've been fortunate enough to talk to some authors who've written these books. And what they say is Harlequin basically comes to them with what's called a Bible. So this is the Fortunes of Texas Bible. And they are handed it, and those 6 stories or whatever it is are already kind of not plotted out. They're not plotted. It's like second chance romance, and these are the characters. Or, you know, enemies to lovers, and these are the characters. And this is kind of the overarching plot for all those 6 books. So then the authors are asked to write these books, and as far as I know, the authors are just thrilled to be parts of these series. They're pretty much instant buy for a lot of people. Like, there are a lot of people who love the Fortunes of Texas. If you're in your grocery store and you're like, hey, the Fortunes of Texas, I love those books, and you're just going to buy it. You may have never read Helen Lacey before, but you're going to buy it and be like, you know, her book was really good. I think I'd like to read more by her. So it's a great selling feature for the authors as well. So anyway, the authors, they write the stories. But then, does this make sense? Like, but they're kind of adhering to this series idea that Harlequin put together. So, Society of Wicked Gentlemen, written by various authors. The first book is called A Convenient Bride for the Soldier by Christine Merrill? Yeah, Christine Merrill. All 4 of these books came out in 2017. Very excited about that one. The next one is, I believe, an intrigue series, and this is Law in Lubbock County by Delores Fossen. This is a 4-book series. First book, Sheriff in the Saddle, came out in 2022, and the final book came out in 2023, so I'm pretty sure this one is done, but maybe not. I don't know for sure. We shall see if there's going to be more published. The next one is a series that I'm almost certain is finished, but this is one of my favorite covers, is the first book, and I did read this first book in 2022, I think, but I want to give it a reread and then go ahead and finish the rest of the series. And this is the Badlands Cop series by Nicole Helm. The first book is called South Dakota Showdown. All 6 books came out in 2020. So yeah, this one looks really good. This series, they all take place in the Badlands in South Dakota, obviously from the title, South Dakota Showdown. So what I find interesting about it is that is an area of the United States that isn't really written about as much. There tends to be like the major states that are used. California, Texas, Montana, Colorado, typically where the Cowboys are. And California. But yeah, to have something in South Dakota, I think is very cool. The next up, let's get to a Fortunes of Texas book. So the Fortunes of Texas is another long-running series, just like the Texas Cattlemen's Club, that follows this family of Fortunes. That's what they're called, the Fortunes. That's their last name. And they, their trials and tribulations. And again, these are like, this is a 6-book. So they do 6-book increments. So 6 books and then another 6 books and then another 6 books with another, each one with a different like overarching plot amongst those 6 books. So the very first one that was written is called Return to Red Rock. And again, this is another one by various authors. And the first book is called Plain Jane and the Playboy by Marie Ferrarella. This one came out in 2008. And the final book in this miniseries came out in 2009. So yay on this one. Next we have what I would consider more to be a companion series as opposed to a series. Fortunes of Texas, and I'm not the first person to say this, that you know, sometimes you need to read some books in order, but the next series I'm going to mention is one you definitely do not need at all to read in order, and that is the Canine Companion series, and this is also by various authors. This is a love-inspired series, so this is a faith-based series. There are 25 books in this one. This is by far the longest one on my list. First book came out in 2021, and the newest books will come out later this year. So, and I don't know whether it's going to be continued to be ongoing after that. But the first book is called Their Unbreakable Bond by Deb Kastner. So these are companion. Basically what that means is that every single book features a service dog. There are some books, like there's a couple books written by the same authors. Like I think Lee Tobin McLean has done a couple of books in this series. So you might see that some of her characters from one of her earlier books might meet up with characters in one of her later books. It all really depends on what the author herself, or himself, wants to do. But yeah, these are fun. I like them. I've read a handful of them sprinkled here and there, so I'm looking forward to starting at the beginning and working my way straight through. Next one is a special edition series. You're going to find a bunch of special edition ones because these are my favorites, if I had to pick a very favorite imprint. And we have The Top Dog Dude Ranch by Catherine Mann. There are 8 books in this series as of now. The first book came out in 2021, and the newest book comes out this year, I think in another month or so. I don't know if there'll be any more after that. We shall see. But the first one is called Last Chance Marriage Rescue. And this series takes place on a dude ranch that features dogs. Now, I read a later book in this series. Is it this one? Yes, it is. I read a later book in this series in 2022, and it ended up being one of my favorite books of the year. And that was The Cowgirl and the Country MD. I'm looking forward to rereading it when I get to this series. It is phenomenal. So it is characters who are older, more mature, if you will. He is actually a grandfather who is now tasked with looking after his young grandchildren after the death of his son and daughter-in-law, and his wife passed as well. So he's a widower as well. And he takes the kids to this ranch to kind of get to know them a bit better and kind of figure out their new normal. And he meets her and a romance. But the fact that they're a more mature and older couple is what I really, really loved, and this was so good. So sorry, I don't mean to jump ahead. That's book 5, but I'm really looking forward to getting to it again. The next one is a 4-book series by the great Teri Wilson. I love Teri Wilson. A lot of you do ask me about sweet and spicy romance. Now, the special edition line is known typically a lot for being on the spicier side. If you read a book, though, by Teri Wilson, she writes on the sweeter side of romance, and her books are fabulous. So this is the Wild Hearts series. Like I said, it's 4 books. The first book is called The Ballerina Secret. I have read this one, but I've not read the following books. But I'm going to reread this one because, again, like I talked about with the last one, I really love this book too. This is about a ballerina who's deaf and her relationship, and this was so delightful. If you follow Teri Wilson on Instagram, and if you don't, you absolutely should, because she is a delight. She loves like anything royal family she's into. She's very girly. She has is it a King Charles Spaniel? The dog's name is Charm that she has. And she loves ballet. And so for her to write this one, I just thought was wonderful. And it's a great, great book, you guys. Next up is another kind of various author series that came out many, many years ago. But I read the second book and I absolutely loved it, and I'm looking forward to going back and starting at the beginning. We have Texas Hold'em, and this is by various authors. This is a special edition, super romance series. Super Romance is another older Harlequin line that is no longer, or imprint that's no longer around, and I miss it. It was so good. It was very, very similar to Special Edition. So if you were a fan of Super Romance back in the day, try the Special Edition. You'll probably like them. But the first book is called The Baby Gamble, and it's by Tara Taylor Quinn. And it's basically, these books are all about a group of friends who play poker and how each of them, but these were published 2007 and 2008. I think this was kind of during the height of like the big tech, like everybody's watching Texas Hold'em on TV and what have you. The second book is called Betting on Santa, so it was a Christmas book, and I absolutely loved it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. We have another 4-book series. This is by the great Maisey Yates. I couldn't not have a Maisey Yates series in this. And this is another Desire series. And this is The Carsons of Lone Rock. And the first book is called Rancher's Forgotten Rival. Came out in 2022. Then we had, 2 books in 2022, 1 in 2023, and the newest one in 2024. Now, here's the thing. The Desire line is done. And it was done at the time of publication of the last book. It's still counted as part of the series, even though it's not published under Desire. And it's the only book on this entire list that is not a category imprint. It would be what is considered to be a single title. And, but I'm going to read it anyway. It's like the same length as the rest of them. And I've already bought a copy of it. I think I got it for $1. No, I pre-ordered it because it's Maisey Yates. So I'm looking forward to that one. The next series is the next longest one after the Canine Companions. And this is actually a series that spans 2 different lines or 2 different imprints, which is very cool. You don't see that as often. It does happen, but this is one that did it. So we have the Made in Montana series by the great Debbi Rawlins. And there are 19 books in this series, you guys. The first one came out in 2012, the final one in 2018. And I believe the first so many books in the series, actually all their titles were based off of country songs, like country music songs, which I love country music. So the first book is called Barefoot Blue Jean Night, and it came out in 2012. And that's a song by Jake Owen. I love that song so much. But anyway, so these were part of the Blaze line originally, which are very, very spicy. They were one of Harlequin's most explicit lines that came out. Not as explicit as the Dare line, but still very much more explicit than, say, like the special edition line. If you did like the Blaze line, you also need to try the Temptation line because it was also super fantastic. Very, very similar to Blaze. It was actually the predecessor to Blaze. But anyway, so 19 books in the series. We have like You're Still the One, which is a Shania Twain song. Can't stand Shania Twain. No One Needs to Know. From This Moment On. I mean, these are all country music titles. Need You Now, which is a Lady A song. Anywhere With You. Kenny Chesney. Love Kenny Chesney. Come On Over, which I think is another Shania. Clearly Debbi Rawlins had a Shania Twain thing. But the last 3 books, 17, 18, and 19, were all published under the Harlequin American Romance line. So they became maybe a little less spicy. They were still a bit spicy because it's Debbi Rawlins and that's what she writes. But not as spicy, but really focused more on the fact that, yes, these are cowboy books for sure. The next one is a Harlequin romance series, and we have the Larkville Legacy, and this is another one by various authors. There are 8 books in this series. The first one came out in 2012, the last one in 2013. I think this is all about a small town. All romance is like set in a small town. And these books, the romance line at this time period tended to be aired more on the sweet side than the spicy side. So the first book is called The Cowboy Comes Home by Patricia Thayer. I do know for a fact that she tends to write on the sweeter side of romance. Now we're going to get into a Colton series. So as I said with the the Fortunes of Texas and the Texas Cattlemen's Club, the Coltons have been around for like 20 years. You have several different series amongst series, with these. So I'm starting with the first one. Now, as I started to mention about the Texas Cattlemen's Club, the first original Colton series, which was 25 books, was not published as a category romance books. They were published as single title, the stuff that you could find on your shelves. But people loved them so much that they wanted more of them. So then they started bringing them into the category romance lines. And these are predominantly published in the romantic suspense line. Sometimes they move into other lines. It's very rare, and I will mention it when it does happen. I think I would say 99% of the time they're within the romantic suspense line. So we have Colton Family First is the first series that was done for the imprints. There are 6 books in this series. The first one came out in 2008, the final one in 2009, and the first book is Colton's Secret Service, another one by Marie Ferrarella. She has written so much for Harlequin. I need to do an author spotlight on this woman, but it's going to take a bit to kind of really delve deep into her backlist because she has written so much and does so many great books. The next one is another romantic suspense series, and this is Midnight Pass by Addison Fox. This is a 5-book series. The first book was published in 2018, and the final book in 2023. It looks like there's been one a year, excuse me. I don't know whether there will be one for 2024. We shall see what happens. So the first book is called The Cowboy's Deadly Mission. So I really like Addison Fox's writing. If you like romantic suspense, these tend to be spicier. You might want to give this author a try. And last, for kind of these big overarching series, Texas Cattlemen's Club, Fortunes of Texas, the Coltons, we have the Montana Mavericks. And same thing, I went right back to their first mini-series, and that was Gold Rush Grooms. This is another one by various authors. And we have Stranded with the Groom by Christine Rimmer. The first book, there's 6 books in this series. The first came out in 2004, and the final book in 2005. So yeah, again, same as the other ones. When I finish this Montana Mavericks, I will move to the next one in sequence and just continue on reading the series through the Montana Mavericks that way. And then we have another, or my final special edition, my final special edition series pick. I love this author so much. I've had the absolute joy of interviewing her, so maybe I'm a bit biased. But she's an absolute delight, and that is Carrie Nichols. And her series is Small Town Sweethearts. There are 8 books in this series. I don't know if there will be any more in this, but these are absolutely great. So the first book is called The Marine's Secret Daughter, and it came out in 2018, and the newest book came out in 2023. So yay on that one. Now, the last 3 series are all going to be faith-based, inspirational type romances. We have one love-inspired series, and that is, I had to put the Amish in here. I can see Steve cringing at home right now. But I had to put an Amish series in here just because they're so big, especially within the inspirational lines for Harlequin. And we have the Indiana Amish Brides by Vanetta Chapman. I figure if I was going to pick an Amish series, I was going to go with the Queen of Amish Romance, which is Vanetta Chapman. And there are 9 books in this series. The first book is called A Widow's Hope, and it was published in 2018, and the newest book came out in 2022, so I think this series is done now. But yeah, there are 9 of them for me to go through. And then the last 2, oh no, excuse me. No, sorry, I counted wrong. We have another inspirational romance series, and this is Mercy Ridge by Brenda Minton. There are 6 books in this series. The first one is called Reunited with the Rancher, came out in 2018. Final book in this series came out in 2020, so I'm pretty sure this series is done. And now we have 2 romantic suspense, inspirational romantic suspense. These are both short little series, so I'm hoping to get them both done relatively quickly. So we have Pacific Coast Private Eyes by Dana Mentick, which has 4 books in this series. Fun fact for my cozy mystery friends out there, Dana Mentick writes cozies. So yeah, so there's that one. The first book is called Dangerous Tidings, came out in 2015. It's a Christmas book. And the final book came out in 2017. And last but not least, a series by one of my favorite inspirational romantic suspense authors, and that is Jessica R. Patch. This is a 3-book series, and it's called The Quantico Profilers. And the first book is called Texas Cold Case Threat, came out in 2022. And the final book in this trilogy came out in 2022 as well. So my assumption is that it is done. Guys, this video was a lot longer than I anticipated. Thank you. If you sat through this entire video, please leave me a dog emoji, like a doggy emoji, for the Top Dog Dude Ranch book that I talked about in here. So yeah, anyway, guys, that is it. If you have any questions, please post them below. I'm happy to answer, not just with the books that I've talked about, but just category romance in general. That's what I'm here for. This is the year of category. And yeah, I'm excited about it. So let me know if you've read any of these books yourself. What did you think about them? And until my next video, everybody, take care and happy reading. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye, guys.